It was a guy named Reggie Wright Jr.
After being somewhat silent or sharing unclear, foggy information, Suge Knight recently spoke about some touchy subjects and didn't hold back calling out names. From the Diddy files, industry secrets, the infamous '96 Tupac shooting, and all the way to the big-time players. However, anything Suge says, you have to take with a grain of salt. The topic discussed in this video will be the 1996 Tupac shooting. Up until now, Suge was silent about some details on the shooting, but new information keeps popping up, and it's about time. Let's go back to the '96 Tyson fight when this all happened.
A very loose-looking Bruce Seldon, a very serious-looking Mike Tyson, and here he is, the walking powerhouse.
He had a nice long rest there, but he has felt.
Back comes Seldon, and Tyson with a left hook, and Seldon is down on his stomach.
Steve, there are two unalterable truths in boxing. If you have a great chin, you don't have a great chin, you can't get one. You can't buy one or learn one.
Oh, forget it. He's wobbly.
You can always punch, and that's it.
It's over in the first round.
What moments of joy for him, what moments of release. America was asking big questions about the talents of Tyson, and Tyson really could not have answered them in a more emphatic manner than he has done in the ring at the MGM Grand Garden in Las Vegas tonight.
It was really a bad day when that happened. I just knew it was really bad. And I felt a little guilty about him coming to the fight, me pressuring him for the, hey, yo, bring the tape, don't forget the tape, you know? And I was going to go out with him that night. I promised to go to 662 with him that night.
Shortly after the Tyson fight in Vegas, Suge Knight, Tupac, and the Death Row entourage got into a scuffle at the MGM Grand lobby and attacked a Southside Crip Orlando Anderson over a Death Row chain that Anderson supposedly took from a Death Row affiliate and Blood Gang member Trayvon Lane. After they beat up Anderson, they went to change clothes and go celebrate Tyson's victory at the 662 club owned by Suge Knight at the time. Heading to the club, they stopped at the red light on East Flamingo Road and Koval Lane and got shot up by a white Cadillac at that same moment. Tupac was rushed to the hospital but died 6 days later. The official story given to us is that Orlando Anderson, his uncle Keefe D, and DeAndre Smith were in that infamous white Cadillac, and Orlando shot Tupac in retaliation for the prior MGM lobby beating, and that makes sense. However, there's so much fog around this shooting that 30 years later new information keeps coming out. There are also many suspicious activities surrounding this case. For example, Death Row security was disarmed by Reggie Wright Jr. Orlando seemed like he was planted there. The infamous "We Got Him" that was heard by Michael Moore over the Death Row security nextels. Snoop warning corrupt Daz Warren G and Nate Dogg not to go to Vegas that night. And many more suspicious activities. Let's hear it from the man who was in that actual car that was shot that night in Vegas.
You were there when one of the all-time most famous music icons was killed. You were sitting next to him.
First of all, now for as what they say Puffy did and didn't do, just the facts. The facts of the matter is this. It was a guy named Reggie Wright Jr. who was over security. He didn't work directly for Death Row, but he had a security company called Right Way Security, who did security for Death Row with off-duty police officers or guys with a CCW. Everybody knows when we go to a fight in Vegas, we're going to be at the Tyson fight, or we're going to be at my club they call Club 662. You can go to that club and you'll see Mary J. Blige perform, Jodeci performs, Tupac performs, Snoop and the Dogg Pound, Andre. I mean, unbelievable talent in one place. That night was going to be Run DMC East Coast night. Reggie Wright Jr. told the security they can't carry firearms. The sad thing about that, Pac hated Reggie Wright Jr., so he had fired him before any of that. I don't know the right date, but I'm quite sure it was. It's paperwork that shows it. But the crazy thing about that, it was a bodyguard named Frank Alexander. Pac hated Frank. He was cool at first, but towards the end, he hated Frank because Frank always wanted to get into pictures with Tupac. And Tupac was very militant, so he was like, man, I don't want a bodyguard taking pictures with me. How is he watching my back if he getting himself in the pictures? So I hired a guy named Michael Moore and told him to bring another off-duty police officer because they kept their gun and they was real aggressive by protecting Tupac. So on the way to the fight, Reggie Wright Jr. tell Michael Moore he can't carry his weapon when he's doing bodyguard work for Tupac. Michael Moore said, well, I'm going back to the hotel. If I can't carry my gun, I can't protect myself or Tupac, so I'm not going. So Reggie Wright Jr., who nicknamed that Pac gave him Pork Butt, so Pork Butt goes and says, Frank, you can go, but you can't bring your gun. Now, everyone knows you can't be a bodyguard without a gun. So after the fight, we come from the fight. Tupac got into it with another guy. It was a big fight. After that fight, after we stopped to a few places, we go to my house. I told Frank, I told all the security, I told everyone, Pac just beat up a well-known gang member. Send 4 or 5 guys extra to the house to escort Tupac to the club. Reggie Wright Jr. refused to send the security guys, refused to show up. That wasn't a coincidence. It was a murder for hire hit. We was blocked in. It was more than one shooter. Only person know the truth, the real truth, is me and Tupac. He's not there to tell it. Only person knows is myself. But Reggie Wright Jr. tried to change the whole story of the narrative, what actually happened, and he was not there. During that situation, Snoop, who everyone knew at the time, wanted Tupac dead. Snoop had a meeting with Daz, Corrupt, Nate Dogg, the Dog Pound. Said, we're not going to Vegas. This is their words, not mine. We're not going to Vegas because basically something's going to happen. Somebody's going to get killed, right? So Corrupt tells the story. Daz tells the story. Warren G tells the story. Now, what Daz says, when Snoop said that, I said, damn, we can't go to Vegas. Who's going to get those niggas? They're already going to get guy, basically. Corrupt tells the story and says, once he tells everybody they can't go to the fight and can't go to Vegas, turns around, Nate Dogg says, I'm going to go to Vegas. Then because I'm going to Vegas, I don't got to be around basically me and Pac. He said, as long as I ain't around them, I don't have to worry about getting shot or getting a stray bullet. That lets you know, premeditated plan. Warren G says, when the fight was going on, he was watching at his house. Snoop came over to watch the fight. Snoop had a walkie-talkie. These walkie-talkies, he only got this walkie-talkie that I bought for security and the principal that security doing security with. And they worked on all the West Coast. So if you're an artist and you're going to the mall or you're going somewhere, they have a walkie-talkie, security have a walkie-talkie. If you're not going to an event with any of the security details, you don't have a walkie-talkie. Because I didn't buy that many because I wanted to be exclusive to hand them out who was needed. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, so Snoop comes in, according to Warren G, and he got this big walkie-talkie. They start hearing the gunshots. When we getting shot, Snoop listening to it in real time. Pow, 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 all over the radio. That's when he tell him, hey, I got to go. They just killed Tupac and shot Suge. How would you know? Nobody said that on the radio. You just heard the shots. Now, Reggie Wright Jr. and Michael Moore in the car. They get on the radio, and they say, hey, got him. Another guy gets on the radio. They say they think he's a white guy or a lawyer. And they say, hey, don't talk on the walkie-talkies on the radio. Don't talk on the air, right? So to move things forward, maybe, I don't know if it was 6 months or longer, however it was, since I've been in this prison right here. Somebody played that for me with Michael Moore said. So when I know that attorney David Kenner always says, you can be on your cell phone and people be talking like, hey, don't talk on your cell phone. Somebody listening. They record it and you can't do that. They're listening to you. So I know that's his saying. So jokingly, I told David, I said, hey, was that you on the walkie-talkie? Because that's your line. Don't talk on the phone. Now you're the one saying don't talk on the walkie-talkie. So that being said, David Kenner goes and says, Suge, I never had a walkie-talkie. I would never have a walkie-talkie. Would I need one for it? Never. So I'm saying, wow, he's so bent out of shape, but I was joking about it, right? I said, you never had a walkie-talkie? He said, that's not me talking on the walkie-talkie. I never said he was talking on the walkie-talkie. So that raised red flags. Didn't think nothing much about it. So Kenner had sent some of my boxes and files to another attorney. And another attorney got them, right? At the time, he wanted the boxes back. That didn't make sense. So when we discovered a walkie-talkie in the boxes, you know, nobody puts something in the box that they're going through the exact same way. So the walkie-talkie, my guess, probably was in one box. And when they looked at everything and reading through everything, and they was asking me about this walkie-talkie, they had put it in another box. Kenner, a guy named Steve that works for Kenner, went and grabbed the boxes from another lawyer he has it. Went and stole the wrong boxes that the walkie-talkie was in, but we still got the walkie-talkie. I said, send me a picture of it. So on my tablet, they can send photos, so they sent me a photo of the walkie-talkie. It blew me away. One part of me, it made my blood boil. Another part of me, I just seen Tupac's face flash all in my mind. I said, these motherfuckers is involved with the assassination. So I tell Kenner about it. I said, David Kenner, you said you didn't have a walkie-talkie. Now you had one. So after that, our relationship after 30-some years went cold. He went and told the judges. He started trying to pull off my case. He tried to sabotage my case. He did, and everything I'm telling you about is the proof.
So ultimately, Suge, look, it's fascinating stuff because I remember this all happening in real time. So it's fascinating just to hear you talk it all through in this way. It's like a sort of murder mystery episode. But ultimately, I've got two questions. Do you believe Diddy had anything to do with it? Because it sounds to me like you're more convinced that Snoop Dogg had more to do with it. Was Diddy involved at all, do you think? And if it wasn't him, then who do you think ultimately ordered that hit?
This is the thing. This is what I do know. I know Keefy D, who I've been knowing since little Pop Warner football. Keefy D says that Puffy and them approached them and gave them money. Keefy D says if he go to prison for, this is his words. Keefy D said if he go to prison for the Tupac murder, Reggie Wright Jr. gonna go to prison for Biggie's murder. So all these things going back and forth. You know, who knows what? Absolutely what? Well, we do know money was paid out. It's a big world, but it's a small circle. You know, Reggie and Puffy was closer and closer. And Reggie tells a lot of stuff, and it's not up to me to tell the story because that's Reggie's story. But Reggie and Puffy definitely were lovers.
But ultimately, Suge, do you believe that Diddy and or Snoop Dogg were directly involved in that shooting?
I'm putting it to you like this. When you take Death Row, you take Bad Boy. Puffy and I was friends. When Puffy would come to L.A., I could pick him up from the airport a lot of times. We'd hang out. If I do an event in New York, Puffy then came to my event and DJ the whole night for free. So you can't say we wasn't friends. But later on, right, people from Death Row and people from Bad Boy, regardless if they securities or not, they remain friends. And I didn't tell my people, you shouldn't. I'm quite sure Puffy didn't tell his people they shouldn't. I don't think. I'm not in his head. But I do know this. We was going to an event, the Soul Train Awards. When we was going to the Soul Train Awards, me and Pac was in one car. We had a bus and a whole bunch of more cars. It probably was 100 deep. But everybody had tickets. Reggie Wright Jr., who's head of security for us, called Bad Boy people and the police who's doing security for the Soul Train Awards and said, hey, only let Suge Knight and Tupac in because they got almost 100 guys with them. You don't want no problems. So eventually, our guys had to bust past the police. He wanted me and Tupac to go in there and fight all those guys by ourselves. They even pulled guns, right? But our guys came in, and that's what happened, right? When you look at that situation, and you look at it's a guy named Gene who does security for Puffy. I know what the recordings say, what people say, and what the proof is. What Reggie Wright Jr. says. By the way, I always say this because he liked me to call him Pork Butt because he happy about that because that's the name Pac gave him. What Pork Butt says is that Bad Boy guys called Reggie Wright Jr. to hire him to do security for Biggie and Puffy and them. I don't know what time it was. I was in county jail that Biggie got shot and later died. And I was trying to figure out how is it, why would they call Reggie Wright Jr. when he worked for us? And more importantly, why is Gene and Reggie Wright Jr., according to Reggie Wright Jr. own words, that they still friends? I know that Reggie Wright Sr. is higher up in the sheriff. I mean, he might have been a lieutenant. They took Reggie Wright Sr., who's over the gang, you don't know Compton better than anyone, off the case, basically, because they said his son was involved in assassination of Tupac and me and get shot. And Frank Alexander, in tears, told me that these people was all involved. And that's why he did not perform the way he was supposed to perform. And if you really look at the other situation, he got interviewed by the grand jury, Frank Alexander, and he lied to him at first. He said everything started over a chain, which is a lie. He says when we walk into the MGM, Orlando Anderson tried to snatch Tupac chain. So the next second day he go to get interviewed, he said, I got to clear up something. I lied the other day. He said, why'd you lie? He said, Reggie Wright Jr. told me to say that they tried to snatch Tupac's chain, which was a lie. My thing is,
do you think Suge,
you can tell that these police, the messed up area investigation there is to mess up purposely.
No, I hear you. I mean, do you think we're ever going to know for sure who was behind that assassination of Tupac and attempted assassination of you?
I'm quite sure we will find out because this is a few people who finally trying to get it right and tell that real story. And they've been going through a lot of times with that story because you had guys like Snoop and Reggie Wright Jr. and all these people calling these people trying to basically threaten them. It's an audio of Snoop Dogg I'm basically admitting why Tupac's dead. He's admitting why he died. And my thing was, how would you know all this if you wasn't involved? And I could have been an asshole and released that audio. Releasing that audio would have put Snoop in prison for the rest of his life. That's how powerful it is.
What's happened to that audio?
So, what'd you say?
What has happened to that audio?
Oh, it's still there. But he's admitting the truth. And it's real sad, the fact that it's two sides to the devil. One day he wearing blue fingernail polish on his hands and switching. The next day, he a Crip mascot. But what I do know is that it's real sad that Universal and Interscope will let this guy run around and speak on Death Row or Tupac or anything to help him promote stuff when they know his involvement with the assassination of Tupac. His own words put him in the cell. For a long time, I wasn't able to listen to Tupac's music because it put me in a place of anger, rage. And my mother, who passed away when I was in county jail, always told me God loves me. And I know I'm not perfect, and I take accountability of everything I do. And I listen to my mother to try to make myself better, to improve myself. And I'm going to say this, and it's very important I say this because it's true. Some people can't be helped. There's a guy named Reggie Wright Jr., and I say this guy's name a lot because he keeps lying all over the internet about Tupac, and he know what he did. So when I knew that he was trying to kill himself because he can't walk and he got to wear steamy shoes to make himself better, he got a great mother. I even know his father. So when everybody was laughing and said he wanted to commit suicide, I called him to give him some encouragement. He goes and take that to be negative and try to bring down everyone, mainly because he hates Tupac. If anybody had a lot of involvement of the Tupac situation, I know Perk Bud had his hands in it. I know the fact that people can get a show and call it Bomb First behind Tupac's saying in his songs. And every person they bring on that show talks bad about Tupac. Talking about he was raped, he was a punk, he was scary, he was stupid. All these things are definitely not true. This person involvement of the assassination of Tupac Shakur. I do know one thing. Crooked cops destroyed hip-hop. When I talked to Tupac and I said, look, man, you and Biggie need to do an album together on Death Row, of course. We can make it 4 CDs in one package. Reason why I said that, I was in the hotel room with me and Tupac, and he was on the phone with Biggie. When they having their conversation, I didn't see enemies. I seen that Tupac was hurt because he loved Biggie, and I knew Biggie loved Tupac. He felt Biggie set him up when he got shot in the studio in New York. And that's all he wanted to say. But Biggie, and you can see Biggie telling Pac, I would have never set you up and, get shot. That wasn't me.
Even before Suge people spoke about Reggie Wright Jr.'s involvement in the Death Row 96 shooting, Snoop's possible involvement, Diddy's ties to the case, and so on. But what's the actual truth? We don't know. But what we do know is that now this will unleash a lot of back and forth between people involved in this circle, and it might squeeze certain people, and we might finally know the truth of what actually happened in the 96 Vegas murder of Tupac Shakur 30 years after it all happened. Tell us your opinion about what you think is the truth in the comments.